All right, 4th and 5th graders, now that you've learned all about some different Black, Indigenous, and people of color that made a big difference in the United States, and you've chosen a person, we're going to go ahead and get started on learning about grid drawings and contour line drawings. So the first thing, I want you to make sure that you have these things available. You should get your pencil, your eraser, and your sharpener out from your kit. You should also have your art journal and your folder nearby. Then go ahead and make sure you have your tracing paper that has a grid already on it and the picture that you chose. Another thing that's going to be very useful for this week is if you have a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, I'll have another set of instructions on how to figure out how to create a grid without a ruler. First steps, that's going to be kind of the fun steps of today. Take your drawing. Or your paper. I chose Ida B. Wells, and I have a little card about Ida B. Wells. She's a civil rights leader, feminist, and crusader for justice, and she's a former slave. She became an activist after being forcibly removed from a train in 1884 because she refused to leave her first-class seat and move to the back. She used her platform as a journalist to lead an anti-lynching crusade in the United States in the 1890s. She then formed the National Association of Colored Women in 1896 and later co-founded the NAACP. She called for President Woodrow Wilson to put an end to discriminatory hiring practices for government jobs. She created the first African-American kindergarten in her area, and she fought for women's rights to vote. She did try to run for Senate, but of course, at that point, they were not allowing for women to be part of the Senate. She raised awareness of the oppression of women and African Americans throughout the U.S. and internationally. So I think that she's a really cool woman that I didn't actually really know much about before this. So that's why I chose her. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to need your tracing paper and your picture first. Now I'm using a light box. You probably don't have a light box at home, and I won't expect you to. But I'm using this so that it's clear what to do. You don't necessarily need to use a light box for this step. However, if you want to, you can use your window. See, it's nice and bright and I can see through it really easily. The first step that you need to do, because the grid drawing, I drew that with pencil. And so if you erase the lines, those lines are gone. So I would recommend making sure you know, look at which side it has the grid drawing. If you need to, you can erase some things and say, okay, so it's this side that's the grid drawing. I'm going to flip it over. Then I'm going to make sure that I have everything aligned. So I'm making sure that my lines all line up. Now I'm going ahead and start to trace Ida B. Wells. And the reason that I'm tracing her is, and I'm kind of thinking about what are contour lines. And contour lines are kind of the outside lines that we see when we're trying to draw. Some of them might be difficult to see because they're in shadow. If they're too difficult to see, then don't draw them. Try to follow all of the details. Be slow. Make sure your paper does not move. Oops. Sometimes there's lines you're not sure if you want to include. For example, some people on their contour lines like to include where the shadow is. I don't, because I'm going to draw that with value later on. I'm not coloring anything in. I'm just drawing the outside contour lines. And that means I want to include all of the details that I would like to have in my drawing. So that means I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw the buttons on her outfit. Some of the details that I see. It's kind of a slow-going process, but what you'll end up with is a really cool traced drawing. And you might think, how does this help me? Well, we're going to learn about how to use this grid to make our drawings better. So if I wanted to, I could include the details of the lines in her shirt and all of that. But I think for now, I like the way that it is. Okay? Once you think you're all the way done, carefully lift your paper up and you can look to see if it looks like you've got a good detail. Okay? Maybe you forgot something. Maybe you forgot one of her eyebrows. Like maybe you forgot some parts of her hair. You might have also made a mistake. Like I made a mistake right here. Here, I'll turn that down. See how my drawing went over here? Since I drew this on the opposite side of the grid, when I erase, it's not going to erase my grid drawing. Now that I have this carefully traced, I can go ahead and put this in here. Now, in the instructions, I said that it would be a 4.5 inch picture, and it's not. It's 4 by 6. Okay, so you can do a couple of things here. You can, if you want to, you don't have to keep these glued down, but it might be useful to have them taped down right here. So let me get some tape. But you haven't seen my handy dandy chameleon in a while. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tape her down on both sides here. That way I'm not losing her. Then I'm gonna try and line this up again. Actually, my paper's not cut all the way. And I'm going to put her over the drawing. But I'm going to make this kind of a flip book style. So I'm going to only put a piece of tape right up top. So that way I can do something like this. Okay? All right. So that's our first step. Now, let's move on to our next step. This next step is going to require a little bit of math skills. You'll need your pencil, you'll need a ruler or a straight edge, and you'll need a nice clean piece of paper from your folder. Please be patient as you do this, because if you rush it, then you will make a mistake. It's very important that you do this very precisely so that you don't make a mistake. With your ruler, line the 0 up with the very edge of your paper, at the very top of your paper. Mark every inch. You won't be able to mark the 12-inch because that's where it goes off the page. You should have 12 marks. Now, at the top of your paper, you're going to make another line for this grid. This is 9 inches long. Remember to line up with the 0-inch with the side of your paper, and then mark with your pencil where each of the inches are. Again, the 9-inch you will not be able to mark because that's the edge of your paper. You'll be doing this around the entire piece of paper. Make sure your paper is marked all the way around before you start the next step. It's important to have your entire paper marked out so that way you can create nice, straight edges. If it's not a perfect grid, it's not going to work as well. Take your ruler and line it up from the 1st inch to the 1st inch. Hold it in the center. That way it does not move. Make sure your pencil is going straight across. Put a lot of pressure on the ruler so that it doesn't move. And butt the pencil up right to the edge of the ruler. What this is going to do is create a grid just like the tracing paper, but it's going to be at a ratio of 1 to 1. But the grid here on this paper is ½ an inch long. The grid here is going to be 1 inch long. We're going to be able to recreate our drawing at twice the size of the original photo. this is something that a lot of artists use. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines that you've just drawn, which leaves 12 spaces. I personally like to turn my paper off to the side so that it's easier for me to draw straight across when I'm doing this side. Now you can see I have a piece of paper here and a piece of paper here, and it's the same, so the grids. The next step is helping me remember about the grids. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use A, B, C, D, E, the alphabet going this way and numbers going this way. This is going to help me stay organized. So I'm going to write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H in the boxes. I'm going to write 1 next to the A, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sometimes I think it's pretty cool because a lot of art actually does use a lot of math. And this is going to require a lot of math, but it's going to be really cool to see how applicable this math is. Up here, I'm going to write a lot lighter. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, E, F, G, H. There's an extra. This whole side I won't be using. Okay? I'll be cutting it off. But I'm not going to cut it off yet because I kind of like to have it just for drawing purposes, testing out colors and stuff like that. So I just keep it there. But know that you're not going to use it. Starting at the very top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. That's enough craziness for today. But if you'd like to find out what the next steps are for next week and you want to get started on it, you can continue to watch the next video. Okay, so you finish this and you say, well, I want to do the next step, but I don't have a ruler. Well, the nice thing is I've provided a little bit of a measuring tool right here. Some of the little lines kind of got off a little bit. They got cut off from the picture. But if you draw a line directly straight from the number here, you're going to get a ruler. What I want you to do is line up one with, after you've drawn the lines, line up one with the edge of your paper. Draw little dots right off to the edge of your paper. You're going to have to move this and line it up again. So on the last line that you just drew, line the one up again. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. All right. I'm going to do that the same way right here. I'm lining it up. I'm drawing my lines. Lining it up. And drawing my lines. I'll do it again on the short side of my paper. Line it up to the one. Line it up to the one. Line it up to the one. Oops. Line it up to the one. It should be the same, but it might be off a fraction because of how the paper cut. So lining it up to the one. All right. Now you should have lines all the way across your paper. Take another sheet of paper. This is going to be used as your straight edge. Line up the lines. Hold your paper in the center. And draw your lines. Make sure you're drawing on the bottom pencil paper and not just the top paper. That's what I keep on accidentally doing. Make sure it's lined and draw your line. It helps to have a very sharpened pencil as well. It does look a little off. I think it is off. Yeah, it's off by 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to leave this at the bottom, but it'll be okay. And that's how you draw a grid without any ruler. As long as you have your paper here, you should be able to have some sort of measurement there, and you should be able to create a grid just like this one. You've had a week, or maybe you're continuing on from last lesson, and you're ready to move on to trying to draw the contour lines. In this step, you're going to need to be really careful about which section is which. The reason that we use grid drawings is so that we can break things down into bite-sized pieces, because when we see a picture like this, it can be really scary because it's hard to be able to know what to do. Once it's broken down into smaller shapes, it's a lot easier for you to focus. I'm going to focus on the very, very beginning here. It is A8. I can tell it's A8 because it's in the very first row, and it's 8. So I'm going to find my first row, and 8. Now, I'm going to notice some things about this space. First, I'm going to notice where it starts and where it ends in the box. Almost like plotting a graph. I'm going to notice that it starts to kind of curve right here. So in my box labeled 8, I'm going to make a little dot where my line is going to start and a little dot where my line is going to end. I'm going to also move my 8 over so that it's not confusing. Now, I'm being slow about this, but I noticed that that's about where the spot is that it goes to kind of start to curve. So I'm going to kind of curve it and mark where it goes. Yay, I'm done with the first part. Now, I'm looking at 8B. I notice that it comes out a little bit and only has like a little tiny line like that. Yay, I'm done with 8B. Now, following my line, it goes up to 7B. I can see from here that it's sort of like just going barely, it's not even halfway down, like this. See how it's just every single step? All right, 7 C is a little more complicated. It has kind of a whoosh in the middle. And I can tell that the neck is not going, it doesn't meet up here. It's kind of like right up here is where it ends. So I'm trying to draw the whoosh. I also notice that this is where the patterns in her shirt are. And there's 2 lines that come out of that section. Right there. All right, now I can choose if I want to go down to 8C or if I want to go up to 6C. Let's see what 6C has to handle here. So it looks like 6C is the top of her neck. It's going to go all the way to her ear. So her ear starts like right here. And almost halfway through, a little bit lower than halfway through this box, is where her neck starts, her neckline, like her turtleneck is. And then it goes back in. Continuing to follow up, 5C is where her ear is. Now, I say ear, but we're trying to sort of break this down so we're not even seeing what the thing is anymore. I see a change here, and I see that a line crosses over just a little bit over the halfway mark here. I see that the ear doesn't really, it kind of starts over here and it goes up. I'm drawing pretty heavily. You don't need to. I'm just drawing nice and heavy so that way you can see what I'm doing. Another thing that I see here is a line that's here and here. Another thing I see is the start of her hair kind of goes like this, and it kind of ends right here. It's going to go into a little bit of this next section right here. Up in 4C, making sure I'm in 4C, is the top of her ear. Her hair just kind of continues on like that. I think you're starting to understand what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and continue this and film it, but I'm going to speed it up. I accidentally didn't record the tracing or the drawing, but I'll show you again later. But for now, this is sort of what you should end up with at the end of week 2.